Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your evangelist of the imagination, Robert Meyer Burnett, here with Robservations, the show about something. Robservations episode number 584. I am being joined today by a an exoskeleton, no, a Terminator and Ultron. They've been yelling at each other all day here in the Rob Observatory. So I figured okay, you guys. I mean, I understand one of you is quarter scale and the other 6 scale, but fight amongst yourselves. And Ultron's been flipping off our endoskeleton all day long. So I figured, let them stand there. They stand their ground, and they can join me for today's chat. They are standing on the Hulkbuster arm if you were watching our show yesterday. But I figured, it is Christmas time. You don't have to be afraid of either an I keep saying exoskeleton, endoskeleton, or Ultron. They joined me today. But anyway, imagination connoisseurs, you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, you know what, I'm going to say this, Merry Christmas. I'm a Jew, and I'm going to say Merry Christmas. I'm not one of these people that gets all caught up in all, look, we should celebrate all holidays. We should celebrate all people. And I like Christmas. Halloween and Christmas are holidays tailor-made for imagination connoisseurs. And I've always loved Christmas because of the imaginative component to it. Last night on Whining About Movies, we were talking about It's a Wonderful Life. And it really got me thinking. I started thinking about It's a Wonderful Life in terms of fandom. I wonder how my life would be different if instead of George Bailey, wow, Mary, we're in Bedford Falls. What would happen if I was never a fan? For whatever reason, when I was a kid, all of the things that shaped me as a human being, so much of them were a function of what it was that I loved. I mean, the things that lived in my brain. And those things, as you all know, I've said it a million times, things like The Twilight Zone, things like Star Trek or The Outer Limits. And these were things that, and the movies that I saw, the original War of the Worlds and the original Planet of the Apes, I saw at a very young, impressionable age. And all of these things collectively led me to the things that I've done or I've wanted to do and have become. And they're all things that I'm actually grateful for. Because believe it or not, it was fandom at a young age that instilled an interest in the world and the universe into me. To me, when I heard "Boldly Go Where No Man Has Gone Before" in Star Trek, that was speaking to me personally. Boldly go where you, Bobby, have never gone before. And that was what life to me was all about. And I always looked upon it as, well, every time you walked out of the house, there was an adventure to be had, depending on how you looked at it. I mean, and that's the way I thought everybody looked at the world, and that's what I thought fandom meant to everyone. I did discover later on that more often than not, the people that I met that were fans had sort of the opposite reaction, that fandom in their lives or devotion to pursuits of the imagination connoisseur, anything to do with science fiction, fantasy, and horror, anything like that, came about as a result of being, well, sort of rejected by the world around you. It was a turn inward when the rest of the world wasn't really working out for you or how you wanted it to be, or maybe you were just too shy. Or I had the exact opposite reaction. To me, all of these things meant you needed to go out and experience the world, because everything that I loved about science fiction, fantasy, and horror, whether I was reading it in books or watching it on TV or seeing it in the movies, it instilled in me this desire to go out and meet people. And to meet more people would mean you would have adventures, you would go places, you would do things, you would experience the world. And that was what all of this was about. And for a long time, it was, I didn't have really anybody to share it with. I had certain friends as I grew up, a few here and there, like my friends, Mike Schertz or Shade Roop. And, friends in high school liked these things, but they weren't really into them the way I was. Everyone liked going to the movies or seeing a cool TV show or something like that, but they weren't I don't think it sort of took over their inner life, as much as these things took over my inner life. And I started being a little introspective. So this week, I watched The Expanse, episode 4. Great. Of course, Star Trek Discovery and The Stand back to back. The Star Trek Discovery and The Stand represents things that I've liked. Obviously, another iteration of Star Trek and a second version, the televised version of one of my favorite Stephen King books, if not the favorite Stephen King book. And both of them were hugely disappointing to me. And none of them, neither Discovery this week, as we get closer to the reveal of how the burn was caused, which is completely magical, supernatural gobbledygook that has no bearing or no basis in any kind of scientific reality. And then The Stand, which was, I used to think of The Stand, especially the first 300 pages, as this amazingly propulsive narrative. And yet it's been turned into something that's dramatically inert, because nothing has been set up to the point where you really kind of... I can only imagine when people are watching The Stand, this new iteration of The Stand, if they've never read it before and they don't know what's going on with it, that it might be rather perplexing, because it doesn't really let you meet people the way you did in the novel to really get to know them very quickly and be on their side and follow them. It's very murky, and it's very dramatically inert. And I was thinking, as I was watching both of these incredibly disappointing hours of television, I was like, is this me? I mean, should I be, talk about toxic fandom, should I feel bad? Like, do I have a problem? Is it because I'm old? Do I not know anymore? Am I out of touch? And it's kind of like questioning in Star Trek 6, when Kirk is asking Spock and they have that conversation, are we so set in our ways that we've outlived our usefulness? Is that where we're at now? Which is a good question to ask. And I think it's always a question to ask, because I never wanted to be the old guy screaming, "Get off my lawn." I never wanted to be somebody shouting at clouds like the most ridiculously overused meme ever, that Simpsons meme. I didn't want to be that guy, but have I become that guy? And that's what I have to ask myself. Has fandom ceased to help me grow? Has it ceased to move me and motivate me and inspire me the way it did for most of my life? And I was thinking about that as I drifted off to bed last night, and I was thinking that the answer to that is no. No, I can't feel that way, because these things that I've been watching, whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek or even Stephen King's The Stand or The Outer Limits or Twilight Zone, these are things that have been here for a long time. Now, I realize that if there's people getting things out of modern iterations of Star Trek, well, I have to say more power to them. Now, I would also like to say that I think from a storytelling standpoint, I think they're more detrimental than anything else, because I do think, especially this season of Star Trek Discovery, in the direction that it's going in, when it's presenting villains that were better written. They look, I recognize a lot of glory in our big bad in Star Trek Discovery this season. It is the exchange I watched between Tilly as captain of the Discovery and whatever her name is, that's head of the Emerald Dawn movement, the Golden, whatever. I'm watching this and I'm like, this is the most dumbed down, bargain basement, Joss Whedon, Buffy the Vampire exchange that I've seen on any show, much less a Star Trek show. I think it's terrible. I think their explanation for the burn, is absolutely abhorrent. It's terrible. However, that doesn't mean that somebody new who's watching this for the very first time isn't finding inspiration in it the way I found inspiration in it. Also, there's 100 million other things to watch than there were when I was watching Star Trek for the first time when I was younger. I am not inspired by modern iterations of Star Trek. But then I wonder, should I be? Perhaps not. I've still been inspired by what Star Trek meant to me growing up, starting out as a 5-year-old, probably watching it in strip syndication for the first time after it had gone into syndication in 72. And I've achieved enough inspiration from Star Trek. People are always saying, well, Rob, why do you continue to watch it? Well, I have to watch it, if nothing else, from an anthropological standpoint. But even like The Stand. I read The Stand when it first came out. I read it in 1990, 30 years ago, when Stephen King released the unexpurgated, longer version of The Stand. I read it again. Loved it. I loved Mick Garris's miniseries that Stephen King wrote. I thought it was great. I mean, for what it was. It was not, didn't have a big budget. I appreciated the creativity. I liked the faithfulness of the story, and King did write the script. So the question is this new iteration of The Stand supposed to tickle my fandom? Am I supposed to feel good about it? And if I don't, so what? The Stand did its job for me. The Stand has been a part of my life for over 40 years. Now, is it disappointing that I see with modern technology and modern storytelling techniques, do I think that there is a fundamental lack of understanding of why the book worked? What's really interesting is in the interviews that you read with Benjamin Cavill, the showrunner, who basically took over when Josh Boone was summarily dismissed, the idea, their ideas for the book, and again, I just read another interview with him about episode 2. It's interesting how you're getting interpretations of these things now, where everybody's going back, all the modern showrunners, like, well, we're going to change what's fundamental about this, and we're going to make it more along the lines of how we want it to be. And I've seen that this year. It's been very interesting watching these things that I've been a fan of for decades, having new showrunners and new people come in and fundamentally change them. Watchmen, what was done on Watchmen, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, all these franchises, the people that are running them are not interested in continuing what they did so well. They're interested in making them their own, and I understand that. But that means that I shouldn't then expect those franchises to be the same things that motivated me 30, 40, or even 50 years ago almost. It's not fair. I mean, I try and look at these things and think, okay, I think objectively these things are bad. I think in desiring to make things more their own, these showrunners are dropping the ball in terms of adapting material. I think back to material and King's material. We have many examples of the best iterations of his material. You can look at them, and we talked about it before, but should I expect everyone to be reinterpreting a 40-plus-year-old novel the same way that I've loved it for 40 years? If they don't interpret it that way, are they immediately wrong? Well, I don't think they're immediately wrong. I just don't think what they're doing is good. And I think that those are two different things. You can think that something isn't good. And when I judge things, I don't sit there and say, okay, I hate Discovery just because it's Discovery. I don't like Discovery because I think it's really bad storytelling, it's bad science fiction, and it's bad Star Trek. Now, there are people, like I said, if you haven't been watching Star Trek for 50, well, no, I haven't been watching it for 50 years, but if you have been for 40 years, say, you can't expect people that are coming to Star Trek for the first time to know that or to have the same experience. I mean, when I was watching Star Trek, there was no other Star Trek. Now there's how much of it there is. There's all these different shows, there's different iterations. But when I was growing up with it, well, then that was it. That was all you got. 79 episodes of the original series. So my experience of Star Trek and coming to Star Trek is going to be very different from somebody who was born, say, 20 years ago or even 30 years ago. They're going to, if they like modern Star Trek, they're going to see things in it perhaps I don't see. And I think what I should be thinking about is, how interesting is it that the things that I've loved for so long have continued to endure? And I think, what if I didn't have them, like George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life? We get to experience through his eyes. Well, what is it like if Bedford Falls? Well, Bedford Falls wouldn't even be Bedford Falls if Jimmy Stewart wasn't there. And that's really interesting. What would my life be like if I didn't like Pursuits of the Imagination Connoisseur? What would it be like if I didn't like Star Trek or Star Wars? What would it be like if I didn't have those things? What if my mother hadn't taken me to see Logan's Run at the John Dan Cinema on that gigantic screen with the what it had to say about the future and the our lives and all that? Well, how would my life have been different? Maybe it would have been much darker. Maybe Bedford Falls would have turned into Potterstown or Pottersville or whatever the hell it is, and it would have been more of a seedy underworld, underbelly kind of a place. It wouldn't have been as bucolic and nice as Bedford Falls is. But what would my life have been like if I didn't like Star Trek? What would it? I don't know. Frankly, I don't want to know. But I do think that sometimes I go a little too far. And as I was thinking about this, as I drifted off to sleep, I'm like, well, of this week, of the things on TV, The Expanse, which is a literary-based science fiction property, turned out to be great. Really liked episode 4 of The Expanse. It was epic. So I don't like The Stand, and I hate Star Trek Discovery. But that's okay. That's okay. I have all the other Star Trek I love. I'm surrounded by spaceships. From Star Trek, there's Space Dock right over there. From Star Trek 3. So it's okay to not love everything. You shouldn't let it get you down. Because you could live in a world where you don't have any of it. And I found some articles about this, and I wanted to sort of share them. They're two different ones. This episode comes from Mr. Feel. It was on Medium. Mr. Feel, and he wrote this on September 2nd, 2018. Why fandom has become so toxic. So let's start with this one. Let's see what this article is all about. Fandom sucks. That's how it starts. More than normal, I mean. While fandom has always been a little bit crazy, it's hard to not deny that it's gotten exponentially worse in the past few years. From the simple toxicity in fandom discourse increasing to death threats made towards creators if they don't toe the line the fandom wants, to groups of fans creating little brigades to protect their fandom, see harassing anyone they don't like under the guise of morality. It's gotten pretty bad. The question is, why? Well, if you read the headline up there, you'll know I'm about to tell you why. The answer is religion, or specifically the lack of religion in the lives of millennials and a new generation. Now, before you close the tab, let me clarify. This isn't about how the downswing of religion has corroded the moral fiber or anything. It's more interesting than that and complex. Religion has a function in society. It serves a purpose. This is true regardless of one's own beliefs. Unlike the existence or non-existence of any sort of supreme deity, the functions of religion have been thoroughly documented and studied. If you want a more thorough breakdown beyond the summary I'm about to give, go read Emile Durkheim's The Elementary Forms of the Religious Life. Religion acts as a support system and a shared moral system. As a result, religion is something of a cultural shorthand. Finding out someone's religion quickly tells you a great many things about them. This is useful in social interactions as it quickly tells you who you're more likely to get along with. To put it in a bit of a primitive way, it makes it easy to find one's allies. If one is Catholic and meets another Catholic, they instantly know they share a great many beliefs about life, justice, morality, and the like. If one is in an entirely new place, finding the local congregation of their own religion is a fast way to build a support network from zero. These are important functions. And with religion out of vogue, especially amongst youth, something had to fulfill that function. It's important and necessary. One of the things that has usurped this function is incredibly specific political beliefs, or labels. While highly specific terms for one's political beliefs have always existed, they broke into the mainstream far more than they ever had before in the recent decade. They usurped that function of cultural shorthand. One's own specific political identifier essentially became a flag one waved while attempting to find like-minded people. That's fine. What isn't fine is that fandom has also usurped the function of religion for a large amount of people. Fandom is frankly not capable of acting in this manner, and the result is the explosion of atrocious fandoms full of toxicity and at times outright criminality and violence. Most works of fiction have something to say, but few, if any, present an entire system of morality. Yet despite this, many treat it as such, and therein lies the problem. Religion inherently has a barrier to entry. It's often, not always, it varies by religion, a simple barrier, but a barrier nonetheless. You have to live by the religion's rules and moral system. In a way, this can be considered payment for the support system the religion offers. If you're not a believer, you don't get in. Pretty simple. That's how it retains its usefulness as an identifier. Knowing someone was a Catholic wouldn't matter if they didn't have to follow the rules. And yes, many religions do charitable work, even for those outside their faith. I'm well aware this is all in the abstract. Fandom doesn't have any such barrier. You like the thing, you're in. It ultimately has no use whatsoever as a cultural societal identifier. If you like the same TV show or anime or video game as someone else means, well, basically nothing. There's no guarantee you share anything else with them, at all. As a result, people who attempt to use fandom in this way ultimately get a rude awakening and end up encountering someone they dislike, or hate even. And that's where the problem starts. The revelation that their fandoms do not uniformly believe the same thing is not often taken well. Rather than realizing that one's choice in media is no guarantee of anything else about them, they develop the belief that this person they dislike is not a real fan. They're fake, and they're seeking to harm the fandom. They're the enemy. And if it's the creator, oh boy, does the shit go off then. Ultimately, these people project their own personal beliefs and morality onto a work of fiction that doesn't, and never did, support them. They adopt the completely ludicrous expectation that any other fan they meet must be just like them and believe all of the same things as them. And anyone who doesn't isn't a real fan and has to be destroyed. And that person is now toxic. The kind that'll harass and death threats and blackmail or threaten the creators. And the problem is only going to get worse online. Online communication and support is only going to become bigger and a bigger part of people's lives going forward. That's why there's a clear level of escalation in bad fandoms. People who are more and more online are making up the majority of these fandoms and lacking any other traditional support network or thing to identify as become these toxic fans. So the question becomes how to fix it. Well, like any widespread sociological problem, there isn't an easy answer. Lord knows I'm not smart enough to figure one out. But most of these people are children. Adults reading this do have some degree of responsibility to try and guide them into more reasonable and healthy behavior, and criticize them when they fall into toxicity. Will all of them listen? Of course not. God knows I never listened to adults when I was a teenager, but some of them will. And if the toxic cesspool that is modern fandom can even be slightly purified, it's worth it to try. Which I thought was interesting. And I'm not one to do that. I mean, what I do find interesting is all I have to do is go on and talk about the latest episode of Discovery, and I'll say why I didn't like it. Or I'll say my problem lies within the writing staff. And in this particular episode, this one that aired last night, I was dumbfounded for most of the episode. From the exchanges toward the beginning, where people were deciding whether they should or shouldn't go on this mission as if they had a choice, there's no discipline at all on the Starship Discovery. Nobody cares. If you don't want to go, you can bitch and moan and complain, and somebody will go, "Well, I'm going." I mean, it was shocking to watch. The first 10 minutes was rather shocking to watch. And I'm like, I don't believe any of this. I don't believe any of these characters. I don't believe the way they would talk to each other. I don't believe any of the situation that has arisen. I don't believe that they were investigating something for episode after episode after episode. Now we're still investigating the same thing in a different way. It was just, but I go on and I say that online, and almost all the people that disagree with me, it becomes a personal attack on me personally. We're not even debating the actual, I'm like, but do you, and whenever somebody does that, I'm like, but do you like the story? Did you think the story was good? Like, for instance, last night, jumping the stand, the flashback structure to me, I'd only seen 1 hour episode, but it doesn't work at all. As a matter of fact, every time you jump away from something, you have to recalibrate where you're at. So you have to start from scratch in terms of what your feelings are about the story. Whereas the more and more you get engrossed, when you read a book, even if there's different chapters, you get engrossed. The book pulls you in until you can't think of anything else. You're completely immersed in the story. That flashback structure that they've adopted, which isn't in the book. So you have to say that, okay, the creators have decided to fall back on a television storytelling trope It's a shortcut. It's a way to create false drama by jumping through time and taking away information the audience is just waiting to get anyway. It's unless it's done really, really well, to me it's a narrative cheat, and I'm not a fan of it. But The Stand, it renders The Stand completely dramatically inert, because every time you cut away from people and go somewhere else and come back to them, you're like, wait, where are we now? It's not like you're picking, when the last time we met them, they were doing this. No, you pick them up later. You don't even know what's going on. You're like, okay, well, where are they now? We watch these characters going back and forth, so we have no bearing on whenever you flash back into their lives again. You ask yourself, okay, you saw your mom last night. In her last flashback, she came to your ill-fated concert, but now she's in the hospital. Like, how much time went by? So it becomes very difficult to follow. It's not me disliking what's going on. It's me disliking this approach, and their approach is fundamentally not the book they're adapting with this flashback structure. So it feels like the creators have made this decision, and it felt like it's a wrong decision. And I can't, after two hours of it, I've watched it. So that I've watched. So does that make me disliking something for, I think, for its own merits? Does that make me toxic? I don't think so. I don't think I'm obligated to like anything simply because it's got Stephen King or the name The Stand on it. If anything, it makes me more apt to be more critical about what I'm seeing. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with criticism. Cogent criticism of anything, I think, is fine. It's certainly, if somebody criticizes Star Trek to me, I don't care. It doesn't make me feel less. I listen to their criticism. I'm like, that's interesting. Or I'm like, I think you missed the boat on this one. Or your criticism is based on a moral position that you've developed here, and you're criticizing something that's half a century old without taking into account where the society was at 54 years ago. But anyway, so then there is another article that I read. This one was on Vox, and it was written almost a year ago, December 30th, a little over a year ago, 2019, by Aja Romano. And again, I thought this was definitely worth sharing. Where did I put it? I think this is it. Fandom went mainstream in the 2010s for better and worse. From 50 Shades to Veronica Mars, the last decade brought major changes to fandom culture. At the start of this decade, fandom wasn't a word most people knew, much less fully understood, though the word has been in use since the early 1900s. For most of the last 100 years or so, it's been known mainly to people who consider themselves to be in fandom, a relatively niche number of people who self-identified as being part of a community of fans. That all started to change with the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe near the end of the aughts, which kicked the gradual mainstreaming of geek culture into high gear. It, of course, did not begin with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It really began with probably Tolkien and Star Trek in the late 60s and early 70s. Tolkien even further than that. And literary science fiction, but anyway. But I do think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe reinvented fandom for the modern age. Alongside the mainstreaming, fandom itself changed and evolved in dramatic and significant ways. And believe me, what they're talking about is what I call the post-geek singularity. Before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, participatory fandom was something fans could only do publicly every once in a while. Performative geek culture was reserved for special events like Comic-Con or the newest sci-fi or fantasy film, but because of Marvel's steady rollout of films over the decade, fandom was suddenly perpetually expected to be engaged in participating in the Marvel apparatus. Geek culture became a new and intense form of consumerism, and superheroes, instead of being a nerdy fringe interest, became a standard model through which a plethora of fans could relate to pop culture. In alignment with the Marvel machine, fans became increasingly vocal about their fandom identities, partially thanks to emerging, vibrant, and visible fandom communities on social platforms like Tumblr and Twitter. For better or worse, 50 Shades of Grey introduced much of the world to the vastness of online fan fiction, while media outlets like BuzzFeed mainstreamed fandom-based ideas like shipping and problematic faves. The user-built fan fiction archive AO3 gained worldwide recognition and then closed out the decade by winning a Hugo Award. Massive fandoms for groups like One Direction and K-pop band BTS helped evolve the cultural perception of the shrill teenage fangirl toward a more positive image of fans as active, engaged participants in the narratives they consume. That engagement was also increasingly ideological. Throughout the 2010s, fandom found its way into politics, and politics found their way into fandom, from call-out culture to Gamergate. Fans took to social media to protest narrative developments they found offensive, like Captain America being revealed as a Nazi-esque figure in a 2016 comic, or the 100 killing off half its popular queer couple. And while fan backlash is nothing new, in the 2010s that backlash gained the tenor of political fervor to an unprecedented degree. Everything from fictional relationships to empowered female characters became polarized critical battlegrounds. Not even criticism was immune, and fans themselves became divided into several more aggressive tiers, from super fans, really intense fans, to stans, really intense, possibly toxic fans, to antis, fans whose identities revolved around hating other fans or even parts of their own fandom. I'd never heard that one before. So where, at the end of the decade, has all of this left us? Has anyone benefited from the increased politicization of fandom? Do we think of fandom differently now than we did a decade ago? And can any of these disruptive changes in the past decade help us predict what might be around the cultural corner? To gain some insight into these questions, I asked two friendly neighborhood fans, Vox critic at large, Emily Vanderwerf, and Constance Grady, to join me. Aja Romano, in discussing fandom in the 2010s, the good, the bad, and the problematic, faves, and otherwise. So here you go. I'm going to put this article in here into the live chat, which is one you might have seen before, because I have too, but I wanted to read it again. So there you go. But again, the idea that we all need something to believe in, and I've often said that Star Trek was my religion. Star Trek was something that it taught me morality. It certainly taught me how to, I think, behave with people, and it instilled in me a desire to meet people and experiencing people. Every person you meet has a story to tell. I think that was something that was definitely derived out of Star Trek, and probably Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits and all the books and things that I was reading. So definitely my fandom has had an effect on me from in every way. It's certainly affected my morality and the way I look at the world and all of those things. So fandom is important, and there's bigger fandoms now than ever before, and now fandom can talk to one another and things like that. But again, it made me wonder, how different would my life be if I didn't have any of that fandom? And would I be the same person? And the answer to that is no. And since I wouldn't be the same person, then fandom is important. And the way we come at our fandom, and the way we treat other fans, and the way we love the things we love. I mean, if we're not going to be a religious people, then why not believe in something that prevents you from being, bad, and presents you with an ideology, a way you can live your life. And I think a lot of us, more so than would ever really admit it, look toward their fictional loves and think, I emulate those people more than I want to emulate anyone I know in real life, which I suppose in itself is problematic. But the question being, what does it do for you? It's a rhetorical question, but what does your fandom do for you? Has it become a burden? Is my love of Star Trek becoming a burden to me every week when I watch this god-awful, horribly written show where it doesn't seem to have an ounce of real science fiction in it, and every episode now becomes more of an encounter group? I mean, everybody. There's a weird something going on with this weird nub at the bottom of the captain's chair that you rub when you have a problem. I'm like, that's a little bizarre. I don't even want to get into that, but it's I watch these things and I get bothered by them, and I get bothered by them. It's not that I think they're just bad. I think that the message that they're conveying is actually dangerous, in the sense that it's dumbing down the people that watch this stuff, because they can't discern, since it's their first foray into Trek. They don't know what's good Trek and what's bad Trek. And I try and reconcile this with myself, going, they're at least experiencing Star Trek. But I'm like, yeah, but is bad Star Trek better than no Star Trek at all? And is bad Star Trek going to instill, or is it going to inspire people the way that I was inspired by it? I think that would be the true test to find that out. I can't be the one to say that. Who knows what's going to happen? I certainly don't. But it's just something to think about. And as as we come into we're Christmas Eve right now, I was thinking about my life without Fandom, and would it be better or would it be worse because of It's a Wonderful Life and George Bailey and Bedford Falls? I don't know. I think my life's been made better because of my Fandom. I think it's put me on a path that's been creatively fulfilling, and I've been able to work in a profession I had no ties to, and I'm still having a good time working in that profession. I mean, the last project I worked on, Tango Shalom, as you all know, it's now gotten into 5 different Jewish film festivals. 5. And there's probably more that it will get into. So even though it is obviously with the title like Tango Shalom, it's definitely a Jewish film about a Jewish family. But the fact that the Jewish community that doesn't have any ties to the movie at all or any of us is embracing our film I guess that is to me a testament of the fact that when I fell in love with Star Trek and what it made me want to do, now that I'm sort of doing it, to find out that the very community that we reflect in this movie that we made is now being embraced by the community, our movie's being embraced, proves that I guess I learned something from Star Trek. I think. And I think that's okay. And I think that's good, actually. So what do you guys think? I don't know. You got to tell me. You got to tell me what you think. But you know how you tell me what you think? In letters. And I have lots of letters. And you do it with tips and super chats as well, which is fantastic. And I thank you for that. So I'm going to start out with a quick one. This one comes from L.D. Clarke. L.D. Clarke, I saw you mentioned the Akira figure and bike a while back. I'd never seen that before and was bummed out it was so pricey on eBay. It come almost $3,000. But look what just got a reissue. So what Mr. Clarke, what LD is talking about is, I'm a big Akira fan. And one of the prized possessions that I have in my collection is this. And I show this on our show the other day. This is a 1/12 scale Kaneda and his bike. This is a special project that Bandai worked on with Medicom. And it was called BM, I think. And, of course, it lights up. And you can see that the green wheel well, they light up. And it also has sound effects. And if you, believe it or not, if you hit the gas pedal, and if you leave your fingers on it, it powers up. Now, this also, you can also pull off all of the plastic here that reveals the chrome parts. And the sound you just heard, you can actually plug a speaker in here so you can get much fuller and richer sound. Well, and by the way, this whole thing comes apart. And Kaneda came separately. So this is one of my prized things from my collection. When it came out originally, I think it was $400, I think, and then the figure was another $150. Well, this is 11 years old. I've had this for 11 years. And by the way, for those of you who didn't see it, also the dash lights up in there, so you can, and all that stuff lights up. So it's a pretty impressive piece. It's one of my favorite 12th scale. Also, I'm a huge Akira fan, and I love this bike. I think it's amazing. So I had this, and I've had it for 11 years, and I love it. And people always ask me, well, where did you get it? And then I tell them, well, it came out 11 years ago, and they look on eBay, and they find out that the bike is now selling for close to $3,000. But not anymore, according to LD Clarke. And I looked at this, and he's right. So he says, I'd never seen that before and was bummed it was so pricey on eBay. But look what just got a reissue. And since I've talked about this on the show, I've received at least 10 different inquiries from people asking where they can get this. And here it is. So they are reissuing both the bike and the figures at Tamashii Nations. So if anyone is interested in this bike, have no fear. You can now get one, and it's not going to cost you $3,000, which you're not going to spend on a toy anyway. So now you might be able to go back, and it will be affordable if it's something that you want to get. So there you go. And I want to thank LD Clarke for sending this in. Also, since I've never written in before, I wanted to tell you how much I loved your Dawn of the Dead episode a few months back. Really good stuff. Hope they get you back on Friday Night Tights soon. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I like doing Friday Night Tights. If they asked me back, I would go. I love hanging out with all those guys. I have a lot of fun. That show is a lot of fun. And Dawn of the Dead, I'm not sure if that's I tell the Ken Foray story. I don't know which one you're talking about, but Mr. Clarke, thank you for writing in and pointing out that, I might have to go get another. I feel like that I need to go get another Akira bike. I don't know why, but this is 11 years old. It's still, and it's the rubber tires. Everything works great, but hey, you never know. I guess I don't, but in case I needed to. This next one comes from Thomas Bertolli. Hi, Rob and the PGS, because we all know that's cooler than STD, right? Greetings and Merry Christmas. I hope everyone, yourself and Liz, have a wonderful Christmas. If this letter arrives late, then I can only blame that bloody owl again. Yes, I'm totally a wizard. I hope all the PGS has a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. Honestly, I don't even know what this letter is going to be about. Do it on Christmas movies? My 8-year-old self shouts, talk about that really fat Holly guy who breaks into your house by a chimney. Actually, you probably meant to write jolly guy. That's magic for you. I will say that my favorite Christmas movie has always been on Miracle on 34th Street. The classic, not the remake. Though I do love John Hammond as Santa Claus. I prefer the older film more. Christmas Story is another great movie. So, letter, right? Maybe a Christmas story of my own. A trip back into the memory vault. Oh, that one works. I believe I was around 10 or 11. We'd gotten a Christmas tree and had put that fake snow on it. All the gifts were under the tree, like, of course, they should be. We opened presents. I got Jurassic Park toys, movies, and Star Wars books. Probably other toys, too. My brother got a plane. He opens it and sets it up. It's a remote-controlled plane, though, on a small scale, and yet he goes for indoor flying and slams right into a tree. Fake snow everywhere. Into the tree. Fake snow everywhere. That's when a squirrel jumps out of the tree and goes crazy, like it was mad. I barely even seemed to care that I had a T-Rex toy, but I wouldn't change anything in the world because I had a great Christmas story or two as a kid. Again, happy holidays to all. Your friend, Thomas Bertolli. Bertolli? Thank you, Thomas. I very much appreciate you writing. And did you really have a squirrel in your house? I love that. I would love to have been there to see that. Craig Stratton writes in. And says, Hi, Rob. I write today because after seeing Mandalorian, I can honestly say I am tired of them using CGI to make one actor look like another, and why I genuinely think makeup effects would have worked better. I first noticed this after seeing Rogue One and seeing CGI Tarkin. Originally, I thought, hey, that's cool, but then I recognized who played Tarkin, a British actor guy named Henry. How I recognized him from a British hospital drama, Holby City. And all I kept thinking is, they didn't really need CGI. A good makeup artist could easily make this man look like Tarkin, and it'd have looked so much better and been cheaper, too. So I asked myself, why bother with CGI? For any actor, it cannot be hard to find another actor who is similar looking and just make use of the makeup effects. No need to use CGI at all. Well, you know what, Craig? I don't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, as much as I love effects technology, I don't think it's quite there yet. Yes, it gets more and more impressive. And yes, people are like, well, you can deep fake it. Well, can you deep fake it close-ups at 4K at film resolution? That's really the problem. I don't think you can yet. The technology isn't there. But you know what? I kind of tend to agree with you. I wouldn't mind seeing real actors play these roles. I mean, the CG stuff has always been distracting. It was distracting when I first saw it. Well, one of the first times I saw it with Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy, it didn't work at all. The uncanny valley was there. It works when they did Gollum, when Andy Serkis could play Gollum, because Gollum, even though it was based on Andy Serkis's performance, was still an animated character. They had to animate everything, even though they patterned it after his motion capture work. But nowadays, they're literally just doing these face replacements, and the problem is the movement of the human face has so many facets at once, especially when you're speaking, your mouth is doing a bunch of different things. It's really difficult to replicate. So usually that's where it falls down, when the mouth is working. And also, they kind of haven't figured out that when you open your mouth, there's so much going on in your mouth that's really hard to animate too. So it's almost like you're seeing this black void, which is not what people see or showing you when they talk. There's tongue movements and stuff going on, and they never get it right. They will get it right, but I agree. I think the guy who played Tarkin looked a lot like Tarkin. Look at the guy who played Tarkin in Revenge of the Sith. He looked like Tarkin. And it might have been better. Who knows? I'm with you. I'm with you. Omar94 is here and says, "Hi, Rob, moderators of the Post-Geek Singularity. I know I mentioned it in my previous letter how my next letter would be a review for Wonder Woman 1984, not 94. Wonder Woman 84, but a thought occurred to me and I wanted to bring it up now. There are a lot of Christmas movies, but something I've been thinking about is there are also, I call winter movies. What I mean is they're not movies relating to the winter season like Home Alone or It's a Wonderful Life, but just released during the winter. For example, two of Ivan Reitman's movies, Twins and Kindergarten Cop, released December, but have nothing to do with Christmas. So I just consider them to be winter movies since that was when they came out. With the exception of Solo, a Star Wars story, the Disney Star Wars movies released in December, so I just refer to them as winter movies. Some of Barry Levinson's movies, like Rain Man, Toys, and Wag the Dog, don't really have anything to do with Christmas, but released in December, so I think of them as winter movies. I consider some of Steven Spielberg's movies, like Color Purple, Hook, The Adventures of Tintin, to be winter movies, since they don't really have to do with Christmas, even though there are scenes with snow in Hook. James Cameron's Titanic and Avatar released in December, but are not Christmas movies, so I call them winter movies. That said, though, I do admit to being mixed on this idea, since usually a lot of movies with Oscar buzz release around December, like Shape of Water and La La Land, so I don't know if winter movies would be a proper term for them, since December is usually the time of Oscar season. Anyways, it was just something I was thinking about. I don't know how you and the others feel about it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, and live long and prosper." Well, Omar, yeah, I mean, I've never really thought of movies as winter movies. Christmas movies are Christmas movies to me. Holiday movies are released at holiday time, but I don't think of them necessarily as winter movies. It depends what happens in them. Like All That Jazz was a movie I saw during the Christmas season, but I don't think of it as a winter movie. Now that I see it, it's kind of a timeless classic. It doesn't belong specifically to anywhere, but that doesn't mean you're not wrong. I mean, you're not right. I kind of like that idea. I like the idea of winter movies. Colin writes in and says, "Hey, Rob, regarding Star Wars, imagine if the sequel trilogy had been 20% better." I imagine that all the time. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni might not be given the current freedom to explore the post-Return of the Jedi time period. There are things to like about the sequel trilogy. Are there? I found Rey surviving day-to-day on Jakku interesting. Yeah, but they never really got into that. I think Adam Driver is an incredible actor and found things to like about his performance in each movie. Here's my main complaint about how the new trilogy went. Han got to go on an adventure. Luke never left Sulk Island, at least physically. Let's talk about Rian Johnson. I really like Knives Out. He can make good movies. I don't think he was a good choice for a film franchise. We're dealing with a modern mythology, and each step needs to be taken with great caution. JJ put Luke on the island because JJ didn't know what to do with Luke. So now Ryan has to figure out why Luke is there. That's fine. I don't understand why Luke's hope isn't restored so he can do something. Okay, I think to myself, this sucks, but we'll get him next time. Then Ryan kills Luke. That was it. Luke's done. I spent the last 30 minutes of The Force Awakens asking myself, where's Luke? He should show up now. Now. Double so with The Last Jedi. My expectations were successfully subverted. I had expected not to be completely disappointed. Imagine if the writers of an Avengers movie turned in a script and that had Tony sullen, reclusive, and never got off the island the whole movie. That would be odd, right? They did that with Endgame. And then they brought him out. And then he became a hero. And he died. I feel bad for Mark Hamill. If it was an RPG, he never really got to roll to attack, to roll dice to take action of any kind. Consider this lens. You're playing Dungeons & Dragons or a Star Wars tabletop RPG. You have player characters Rey, Finn, Poe, and Rose. There are non-player characters, Maz Kanata, Vice Admiral Holdo. They exist to give information, quests, etc. Rian Johnson, the game master, has Maz give a quest to get the Codebreaker. Finn and Rose try, but it turns out it was counterproductive. Don't they feel stupid? But it was the game master that gave them the pointless quest in the first place. I guess they, along with Poe, were supposed to just sit in their bunks while the NPCs do everything. That's how adventures work, right? I mean, Holdo does save the day. There's a reason game masters aren't supposed to have their own character. I like the original characters introduced in The Mandalorian. I'm not against new characters and new threats, but everything needs to be handled with care. I wanted the sequel trilogy. I wanted to like the sequel trilogy, and I do like parts. I can't blame the art department or the cinematographer, the costume designer, or anything. The problem, in my estimation, was a lack of a roadmap. Where are we? Where are we going? I trust that the new streaming shows have a better idea of where they are going. Well, I have to tell you, I think you're probably absolutely right about that. I want to thank you for writing in, Colin. What a great letter. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. They needed a plan, and they didn't have one. And that was a bummer. Camille Zaja? I think it's Zaja. I think so. Zaja? Hey, R&B, for quite some time now, I have a weekly meetup with an older friend of mine. He's turning 60 next year. I turn 34 in a few days. We both share the love for movies and music, and we both learn from each other. His expertise, obviously, are movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm, well, a 90s child with biggest tendencies to sci-fi and comic books. The reason I write you today is our tonight's movie, which impressed me that much that I had to write and tell you about it. On today's watch list was Werner Herzog's first movie with Klaus Kinski, Aguirre, the Wrath of God. What the fuck did I just watch? This was the slowest movie I ever saw, but not 1 minute was boring. I don't have enough words to describe this experience. I mean, imagine the struggle to carry a few hundreds of people through the Amazon rainforest down from Machu Picchu without actually showing Machu Picchu. Why? The opulent costumes, cannons, animals. They built rafts to go through the wild rivers of South America. I struggled to understand why Herzog put all of this insane effort into making the movie. And speaking of insane, can you imagine to be in the middle of nowhere with a few months together with Klaus Kinski? The whole thing was insane. Right after we saw Aguirre, we watched the documentary My Best Fiend. Mr. Herzog telling anecdotes of Kinski. What a joy. Werner Herzog should record all of his anecdotes as an audiobook. I could listen to him all day. As a German myself, I'm in the lucky position to listen to his English and German interviews and documentaries. After I saw these two gems tonight, I can proudly say Werner Herzog is my favorite fellow German. Mine's Dieter Bastian. Next week we'll watch Fitzcarraldo. They dragged a freaking ship through the Amazon. This is what I call dedication for filmmaking. Who else would do such things? None. Just these two German maniacs. Herzog and Kinski. Can't wait to see this. Greetings from Lippstadt, Germany. Camille. Limac Ijax. Well, Camille, thanks for writing in. I always like hearing from you. Yeah, I'm glad you liked the movie. Aguirre, the Wrath of God is definitely something to see. You can't miss that. This next one, Emile Johansson writes in and says, why superheroes should not be hopeful and optimistic. Uh-oh. First, I would like to point out that this is an opinion, not some research fact. This is my personal opinion. I'm not saying everybody needs to follow this as a guideline, but this is what I personally enjoy. Some people think the very definition of superheroes is that they should be inspirational figures on how to be, sort of like preachers or religious texts, guidelines for how to live your life, people who instill a moral compass in us, but I disagree. I believe heroes being hopeful and optimistic does not instill good values, but is satisfying nothing more than a lie. This concept encourages a fantasy, which because it is a fantasy, is a bad influence on people. Oh, but who cares in the end? It's just trash entertainment, right? It's not important like those real jobs out there. Well, I disagree. While there are more important jobs, entertainment still has a value and should be treated with care. I agree with that, actually. Not for an excuse to do political propaganda or whatever the hell you feel like. When companies tell their creators not to portray Batman with a gun or to have Superman teach people about the dangers of racism, that makes a lot of sense from a point of view, but in the end, it's censorship. It's not creative freedom. And no matter how much we force values onto others, it's still a fact that characters like Deadpool and Peter Quill or shows like The Boys are fascinating to people. We are all attracted to bad guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because we don't need our entertainment to tell us what to think. We should be grown up enough to be able to figure out that for ourselves. To think censors actually know what people should think is arrogant. To think that entertainment with good values will make people behave is also not accurate. I haven't done studies, but I'm pretty sure if entertainment followed certain guidelines, we would still have bad people in the world. And that's the point. Evil can't be cured through good values being instilled in us by Disney or Wonder Woman. So why hide from it? The moment you start keeping it real and portray fiction inspired by the actual state of things, we lose that censorship. And we also reach out to people in a different way. Watching a movie is suddenly not a chore, it's a choice, something we can enjoy and be fascinated by and not haunted by. I don't think a person that has been raped will find solace in comics that are not allowed to portray rape, but in a world that embraces darkness could probably be way more relatable. Comics like Watchmen, movies like Man of Steel all put mud on the superheroes, and suddenly they aren't perfect anymore. Even in Marvel, Captain America is not perfect. He is confused and makes mistakes. Iron Man is not the best example of how to be. He even have other characters berate him for this. But are we really going to pretend this makes them worse characters, worse movies, because they're allowed to be portrayed as flawed people? People who continue to only live in a perfect dream world will lose touch. When Achilles raises his hand toward an army in the 2004 movie Troy, a censor could have told him that looks like a Nazi salute and we need to remove it. But it wasn't a Nazi salute, and it made sense in that movie. And the movie doesn't shape people becoming Nazis. If I ever make stories, I will make sure I try to do what satisfies the story and not what satisfies an agenda. Hey, I'm right there with you, Emile. That is, of course, the Burnett axiom. Never put your universe or your never put your universe or your agenda before your characters and story, because it doesn't work. So, a good letter. Well, look who wrote in today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ian Samuels is back. He has not written in a while. It's nice to get a letter from Ian. I hope all is well with Ian. Rob, so finale of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Well, Mandalorian is still the greatest thing on TV at the moment. Nope, that would be The Expanse. But where the season was established as the series, as its own thing with enough reference to the show that is indeed Star Wars, season 2 has had huge dollops of fan service. Characters from the original films return, as well as characters from the animated series and even the books. So despite season 2 still being awesome, was there too much fan service? Many casual fans who haven't seen the animated series of the Clone Wars and Rebels didn't know the characters that appeared in their live-action versions, so missed the emotional impact. And with the appearances and references in Season 2, there were some of those emotional keys in almost every episode. Without those, how is it diminished? I, of course, loved it all. Haven't gotten around to reading the specific books that a certain character appeared in, but I know about them and who they were. Uncanny Valley effects as well didn't bother me, as the full emotional impact was there. I loved all of it. Ian. Well, Ian, I agree. I mean, I as I've talked about this week on the show, I thought the fan service was fine. I don't have a problem with it that a lot of other people do, but apparently, what can you do? I thought it was good. I think it's, again, people are talking Star Wars all over the place, and isn't that good for the franchise? I think it's actually quite good for the franchise. So let's see what you guys are thinking. Let me dip back into the well here. Checkmate 9 Moves sends in a tip and says, everyone else, Dasher, Dancer, Prancin', Vixen, me, Philly, Killy, Oyen, Gloyen, Mary, Middle-earth. Oh, okay. Let me read that again. Everyone else, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. Me, Philly, Killy, Oyen, Gloyen, Mary, Middle-earth Saga Marathon time, everyone. I know I'm not the only one who does the extended version marathon this time every year. Truly the most wonderful time of the year. Yes, well, it's true. It is the most wonderful time of the year. And, got to watch those extended versions in 4K now that you can get them. Glenn Taylor, the man, the myth, the legend, who's now been married for 24 years to his lovely wife. Glenn says, Rob, I finally got to watch Galaxy Quest. Can you believe it? Glenn Taylor had never watched Galaxy Quest until last night. I finally got to watch Galaxy Quest last night, and it was great. I really liked Tony Shalhoub's character. Yeah, we're all okay down here. Definitely a fun watch. Tonight's movie is In Harm's Way, one of my all-time favorites, and has a great cast. Well, there you go. I'm glad you and your lovely wife are watching these movies after 24 years together. I still think that's amazing. What an accomplishment. And the first guy, if memory serves, you guys went and saw Short Circuit, right? That was the first movie you guys saw together. Johnny Five. Martino Sulmoni, wow, you are so generous, sir. I don't know what I've deserved to engender this generosity, but I cannot thank you how much it means so much to me. Thank you so much. He says, I wish you a most honorable holiday. Kapla! in the Klingon language. Yes, I agree, and I will say this: only a fool fights in a burning house. That's what Kang said in Day of the Dove. But Martino, thank you for your ongoing support of the channel. I wish you all and your family a very happy holiday season. Team Waspinator became a member. Where has Team Waspinator been? The Waspinator is back. Give him a buzz, everyone. Bzzz. Let's hear it for Team Waspinator. Back. Willow sending me a very nice tip. Thank you so much. By the way, I'm putting you to work next week, just so you know. Expect to get your judges' forms for the film festival. Since I wasn't sure if you'll do a show on Christmas, Merry Christmas to you, Elizabeth, your families, and everyone here in the Post-Geek Singularity community. What do you hope that Santa will bring you this year? That's a good question. Well, I mean, not to be cheesy, I tend to buy things that I want myself. I'm a terrible person to buy for because I'm very specific in what I want. But I have to say, I mean, to be honest, what I've really wanted in terms of what I wanted out of this year, I've had ongoing projects. The Netflix show I'd started back in work in 2019, Tango Shalom, was an ongoing concern. Both of those things are going to be unleashed on the world in 2021. Basically, what I want is new projects. Those are the things I want the most of, and I've always had to generate them myself. But I think, you know, not to be cheesy about it, but the things that matter to me most are the relationships I have. You know, the relationships here that I have domestically with Elizabeth and with her daughters and with her mom and her mom's husband Murray and my own mom. I want her to be in good health, and it seems so cheesy, but I really like nurturing this community. Knowing that the film festival worked, like people have, and it's still working. You're still going to see Torn Atkinson, I promise. You still see. There's still a lot of films you're going to see. I can't believe the outpouring of creativity that I saw. I think what I would want is more of that. I like seeing other people's creativity. I can handle my own creativity, but I want to use this channel to inspire more people. Not that I'm inspiring people to do things, but, you know, having contests and doing things like that, people get off their asses and do things, and maybe, who knows, those kids who made Ascend, maybe they're going to make a feature out of it. My job's done. I'd like, hey. So I would like to see, the thing that I want most for Christmas is to keep fostering everyone else's creativity. I think that's, I'm good at that. So I'd like to see that happen. But I want to thank you for your ongoing support of the channel. You're foundational here, Willow. So thank you for that. And Willow, by the way, if people don't know, she is going to be judging you if you entered into the film festival. She's not the only one, but Willow Yang will be judging your films. So, yeah. Theta Sigma sent in a super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Theta. Theta Sigma. R&B, I'm going to be trying to send some cheer to all my favorite streamers. Merry Christmas. Keep up the good work. Well, Theta Sigma, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. I hope you have a good holiday season. I will not be streaming tomorrow just because I don't want to, you know, I really, to be honest, after opening presents, I kind of just want to sit in bed and not get out of bed and not do anything. I haven't had a day off. There's always been something to do. Tomorrow, I would like to drink whiskey and watch endless amounts of Blu-rays and catch up. That's what I really want to do. Eli Gray sent in a super chat and says, Merry Christmas, my fellow shalomosexual. I love the Stand novel in the original miniseries. I showed my wife the original series, and she hated it. She hated it? How'd your wife hate it? Why are you married to a woman that hated the original The Stand? By the way, I don't want to get into the middle of that conversation, but we both love the new take on The Stand. Have an excellent holiday with Elizabeth, Rob. We love you. You're the best. Can't wait for Tango Shalom. Well, you won't have to wait that much. I'm telling you, between February and May, 5 festivals around the country. So, and that's just the beginning. So we'll see. But I'm glad you're liking the new The Stand. That's good. It's good to like things. Federico Della Casa says, 1, hi, you're right. I'm an OG comic book nerd. How many times we've seen Cap and Superman die? And that was not the issue. It's how the stories are told. I agree. And that has become a political issue if certain rules are not followed. But stories have their own way, and they will find it anyway. Merry Christmas. I agree with you, sir. I agree with you 100%. And Frederico goes on to say, fandom worships archetypes that religion and politics use for millennia. We need them anyway, but this time we can create them, but they have to work. Yeah, I mean, look, it all plays off of that. Definitely does play off of that. I think that, the thing is, religion was supposed to inspire people, but I think that this idea that religion also judged you, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Look, as a Jew, I like the Day of Atonement. I like that one day a year during Yom Kippur, you must go before God and you must say, look, all right, here's how I fucked up. And you got to list the ways. You have to speak them out. You have to, understand what they are and basically say to God, you know what? Here's what I did, and I'm going to atone for those things. God isn't judging you. You're supposed to go to judge God, and you're supposed to judge yourself. You're supposed to be honest before the Lord and say, look, man, here's what I did. Here's how I messed up. I always liked that. But, I think one of the reasons that as people got old, look, you think with the way culture has changed now, where people all want to be considered special, do you think they want their own judge, do you think people want their own God judging them? I mean, can you imagine our special snowflake society? We don't even want each other judging ourselves. So to think that your God is going to judge you, of course I'm going to become a fan of My Pretty Pony or My Little Pony. I'm going to become a brony because the bronies, they don't judge me. That's why fandom replaces religion. I don't want to be judged by my God. But that's why I like being a Jew, because you have to go before God. You have to admit yourself, all right, here's what I did. It's like confession, but you don't say any Hail Marys. You're not absolved of your sins. You have to admit you did them. So that's what you have to do. Kaz Graphics, our own cheesemonger, sends in a super chat and says, happy holidays, Rob. Today, Seven Gables Theater burnt to the ground in Seattle. Okay. Did it burn to the ground? My friend Craig sent me a picture that it was on fire. The Seven Gables Theater, for those of you who don't know, was an art house theater in Seattle. And in that complex, there's a lot of the people that work at the Seattle Film Festival that I've known for 40 years. That was where it was based out of. And it was, wow. There used to be Cinema Books. Stephanie and Cinema Books used to be there too. Burned to the ground. That's all I can say is 2020 has sucked, says Kaz Graphics. Just an FYI. Wow. I used to go there all the time. That sucks. Wow. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, what is it with JJ and Kurtzman Trek? That experience and rank mean nothing on a starship where a cadet or an ensign can jump over others of rank to become captain? Also, how about that burn explanation? Don't get me started. I mean, at the end of Star Trek 09, a cadet on academic probation becomes captain of the Enterprise. And in last night's episode of Star Trek Discovery, not only does Tilly become acting captain, we see that through her incompetence and the incompetence of, there is no chain of command. I don't want to go on this mission. Why are you going to go on this mission? You can't go on this mission. I can't watch a show. It feels like I'm watching, Discovery is watching high school kids try and navigate, and their high school guidance counselor is the captain. Saru is the guidance counselor, and everyone else are students. And they're in various stages of, they're either freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or seniors waiting to graduate to go to college. I mean, and last night's episode, I mean, our crew is incompetent. They're just, and the whole thing about the burn, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I can't even get into how monumentally stupid and how nonsensical and ridiculous but then again, I thought the Guardian of Forever episode, no, last night was easily the worst episode of Star Trek Discovery ever. I know if you like it, then like it, but man, I don't know, 200 Watt Studio, that stuff was terrible. Terrible, so bad. Like, why? You know what? Remember I talked about it wasn't on this show. So the Inglorious Trexperts are talking about the greatest episodes of television, science fiction television of all time. And one of my favorite episodes of any TV show is, sorry, I'm burping, is the episode from The Twilight Zone, Time Enough at Last, with Burgess Meredith playing Henry Bemis. And Henry Bemis, there's a Henry Bemis is a reader, and he reads everywhere. And his horrible wife, he's browbeaten by his wife. His wife has found all of his hidden books, and when he finds them to go read them, when she's taken all of his other books away, he finds out that she's drawn in every page, so he can't read his books. And when he confronts her, he says, "Why, Helen? Why do you do these things?" And it's just because he can't believe that this battle axe of a wife he's married would take his books and just scribble in every page. And whenever something goes wrong in my life, or whenever somebody does something I disagree with, that is my go-to phrase. In my mind, I'll say it aloud sometimes, but no matter what happens, I always it doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't have to be a woman who does it. It could be anybody. And in my mind, I think to myself, "Why, Helen? Why do you do these things?" And he kind of looks with his glasses. I don't know. I feel that way about Star Trek. "Why, Helen? Why do you do these things?" But anyway, what are you going to do? The Mad Titan sends in a super chat and says, "I binged all of TNG this year for the first time. Wow. The episode Dark Page is incredible because I hate Troy's mom." But that episode made me ugly cry. Wow, I have to say, the Mad Titan, after watching all of TNG, Dark Page is not one of the episodes that I would think you'd write me in about, especially because you're the Mad Titan. But it makes sense. If you're going to ugly cry, Mad Titan, maybe it's over Dark Page. Well, what about Sub Rosa? Eli Gray says, "I'd love to see Sebastian Stan as a younger Luke. I think he could play him. And our earlier writer who said, why don't actors play these parts? I don't know. I think they should. Johnny Boy is here. Hi, Rob. Wayne Pygram played Governor Tarkin in Revenge of the Sith. He was more popularly known for playing the badass antagonist Scorpius in Farscape. That is correct. I knew that, and I think he should have gone on to play Tarkin some more. Or at least we could have seen him. Keaton Toothman. Keaton Toothman has a lot of festival entries. Oh, you're going to see them all weekend long. Love ya. The Fesman. By the way, you should watch what Keaton Toothman has in store for you. The Fesman 93 sends in a super chat and says, "Happy holidays, Rob. Being Irish, I watch the Father Ted Christmas special every year. Is it Friar Ted or Father Ted? Father Ted Christmas special every year? Well, you're a Carker, Shannon, a Carker." Emma Bannon is here. Emma Bannon says, "Hi, Rob and fellow members of the Post-Geek Singularity. Let me be the first to wish you all Happy Easter." Your jokes, Emma. I love you. I love you. You know I do, but the jokes. "I'm off to fight in a burning house." Well, it was either that or watch Discovery, so duh. Only a fool fights in a burning house. One of my favorite quotes from a Klingon. Heel versus babyface. Oh, Merry Christmas, my friend. Here's a little something toward your next piece of crack. Well, heel versus babyface. That is very kind of you. Thank you so very much. That is very nice. You know what? I think I've got a payment due. As a matter of fact, I do. I think that Infinity War. There's yes. Anyway, I do. I'll tell you about that on Wednesday. By the way, one of the highlights of my year, sir, I don't know if you're still here, you just popped into, one of the highlights of my year has been meeting Az and doing streams with Az. I've thoroughly enjoyed them. And it's been great geeking out. I mean, I didn't think it was possible to do 3 streams. Now we're going to do a 4th stream geeking out about toys. I mean, I love the fact, I don't know if you watched our show yesterday, but Az is a big Transformers fan. Transformers was a little after my time, but I love that he showed off these third-party, really posable, really good Transformers toys. I just love that I know grown men who have such a love of these things as I do. and it's fantastic to watch. And I love doing these streams with Az, and I cannot wait. He has a Battle of the Planets, or as you might know it, Gatchaman. He has a Battle of the Planets Mark statue that I can't wait to see that he hasn't opened up yet. So maybe he will. Grace Randolph's hair is here. I've just received an incredible scoop. It turns out that Tamora Morrison's Boba Fett has replaced Pedro Pascal as the lead of The Mandalorian Season 3. This happened after Pedro stormed off the set after punching Baby Yoda's head off. Then he wet himself. Oh, poor Grace. I watched, what is it, World Class Bullshitters? Was it World Class Bullshitters that did a great piece on Grace Randolph? Yeah. Praxium sent a super chat and says, I don't have a question. I don't have a question today. I just want to wish you a happy holiday. Hans Gruber just fell off the Nakatomi Plaza, so the holidays can begin for me. You see that? It's a Rolex. Show him the watch. Richard says, hey, Rob. Oh, wait. Commander Claudius is here. Claudius is here. Hello, Claudius. Happy holidays, Monsieur Robert and the Post-Geek Singularity. Thanks for giving us, specifically Spencer, a Christmas Eve project. Okay. Let me just say, hang on. I got to show this. So yesterday, Claude and Candida, the first couple of the Burnettwork. It's true. We have an official romantic couple, Claude and Candida. I got to get this. So somehow there was the idea of nutcrackers and stormtroopers mixing. And I think I threw out there, I said, stormtroopers are white and nutcrackers are mostly red and white. But if they were going to fight, that a massive battle between stormtroopers and nutcrackers would be like, it would look like peppermint. So it could be the ultimate, like, what if the Empire found a planet full of sentient living nutcrackers? Could happen. Or you could have they wouldn't necessarily have to look like nutcrackers, but their army would look like nutcrackers or something like that, right? So I made that comment, like, that's pretty dope. So I would want to see that. So Spencer, Claude and Candida's son Spencer, I guess now has a new project. And so I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could see something like that? Now, I know that Claude and Spencer have quite a collection of Star Wars figures, but I didn't quite know, exactly how extensive, and nor would I know what it would look like if the Empire was actually going to take down the Nutcracker guys. Like, what would that look like? But I was thinking that could be kind of like the coolest Christmas thing ever. So check this out. Let me hang on. Allow me to get these. So what Claude is referring to is Spencer has apparently taken on this project, and they sent me some pictures. So as a matter of fact, what I'm doing now is I'm going to get the pictures. I hadn't gotten them. I just, since Claude wrote in, I'm going to share. So this idea, I see, the thing is, all the best ideas on this show come about when you imagination connoisseurs, you inspire me to think things up on the fly. Like, let's do this. But yet they were your ideas in the first place. And I'm just like, yeah, man, wouldn't that be rad if? So check this out. So Spencer and Claude and Candida, here is some of the results. Like, here's the beginning. Maybe this is the last one. I'm supposed to show this last. I'll just get, I mean, look at this. You gotta, but wait a minute. That's a sequel trilogy stormtrooper in the foreground. But look, we got gun emplacements. We got the Nutcracker people out there, and the Imperial onslaught. Now here is Spencer. Here's Spencer organizing the battle. This is the way to celebrate Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle being, kind souls from across the 28 known galaxies. I mean, look at this. This is exactly how I would be spending my Christmas Eve, creating the giant battle for it's like the battle for Endor, except it's the stormtroopers pitted against nutcrackers. Fueled by Hendrick's gin. Well, Claude, thanks for writing this in. Now, you guys are doing Christmas Eve up right. Man, do I love seeing that. That is amazing. So, there you go. That's so good. The Nutcracker versus Stormtroopers are coming soon. Why is it, you better make that into a stop motion animated movie. Richard says, "Hey Rob, I find myself completely disagreeing with you regarding Star Trek Discovery. I actually find Star Trek Discovery the closest example of Gene Roddenberry's vision for the show. While Gene may have had an inclusive vision of humanity, he destroyed it with the Nazis in space, otherwise known as Star Trek the Original Series, with all the following Star Trek series being some variation of that premise. I've heard you remark that the crew have been segregating themselves into either races or their gender roles, and I think you should read up on what segregation means. The reason that BIPOC have been associated with one another, it's to escape the intersection of heterosexuality, whiteness, and ableness that make up the three pillars of white supremacy. In the 32nd century? And while you may remark that the show is disinteresting to you, that's just privilege on your part. Setup, payoff, and turning point are signifiers of white supremacy." Richard, I gotta say, I hope you're being facetious, and I hope this is irony on your part, because to say that setup, payoff, and turning point are signifiers of white supremacy. I don't know, man. I think they're just signifiers of good storytelling, and good storytelling goes way, way, way back. And I think good storytelling travels across multi generations, and it has been a staple of humanity for a long time. Yeah, inclusive. But he destroyed it with Nazis. But I think you're being ironic. I'd like to think you're being ironic. So I'm not going to take that bait. Not today. But an interesting perspective. Brian Borden said, "Here's some favorite genre episodes. Twilight Zone, Night of the Meek, a great one. Night Gallery, The Messiah on Mott Street. The Avengers, Too Many Christmas Trees, and Star Trek, Bread and Circuses. Merry Christmas." Star Trek, Bread and Circuses. It's not the sun in the sky. It's the Son of God. You are correct. Script Doctor sends in a super chat and says, "Hi Rob, a guidance counselor and their students aboard a spaceship was a 90s show known as Space Cases." I remember that. Star Trek Discovery wishes it could be that good. Live long and prosper. Tom Jr. Jackson says, "Hope you and Ace have a nice Christmas. Thanks again for reading my letter on whining last night." Well, thanks for writing it in. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls across 28 known galaxies, I'm going to bring this chat to an end. I want to thank my moderators. Joshua Levesque is here. I always say Levesque. I know it's Levesque, but I say Levesque when I read it. It's so hard. Robert Priso is here. I want to thank you guys for being here. And I'm going to get off of this channel. So everybody, the Richard's here too. I want to thank my great moderating staff. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and all of that. Superman's Nut Sweet Can sends in a very nice tip and says, "You're a crazy son of a bitch" on YouTube. Happy holidays, jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg, the Batmobile lost its wheels and Joker got away. Hey, your own Mr. J. Throg of Thunder and Family. Well, Mr. Throg, I got to say I want to thank you for keeping us. I mean, I never thought that one of the byproducts of doing a YouTube show would be that when the cupboards were bare here in Los Angeles, and when I say cupboards were bare, I meant in the grocery store, there was no, and this happened a couple weeks last week. They let you buy one roll of paper towels at the grocery store if they have them. I never thought I would live in a world where I would prize toilet paper above all, but Throg, because of you, our bungholios have been cleaned. Thank you very much. I never thought I'd meet somebody over YouTube that would make sure that they would send me from across state lines toilet paper. But thank you, Throg. That is very nice of you. And Tom Jackson, It was great reading your letter anyway. But I want to say that I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. And I do say Merry Christmas. It's Christmas. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, I like Christmas. It's an imagination connoisseur's holiday. I want to thank everybody for being here. I will not be here tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of stuff going on. I am finally going to watch Tenet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have it right here. The Ace and I are going to watch Tenet. Where did Tenet go? It's around here somewhere. Oh, it's all the way on the bottom. Here it is. I got my 4K Steelbook of Tenet. I have yet to watch it. But the Ace and I are going to watch Tenet. We're going to watch it, and we're going to do Whining About Movies about Tenet on Saturday night. I'm very excited. I've got the subtitle track ready to go in case I can't understand any of the dialogue, even though it says unintelligible on it. I'm very excited. But I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank my great audience. I also want to thank, if they're listening, it has been great doing streams with Az. I want to thank people like Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic and the guys from Midnight's Edge, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. I've been meeting a lot of really interesting YouTubers that have been very nice to me over the past year. I'm thankful for that. I'll talk more about that on New Year's Eve, I guess. I think this is a really interesting, great community that we have. I want to thank John Campia for being not only a great boss, but a good friend. For those of you who haven't, I would suggest go find the movie that John made that I worked on. Movie Trailers, A Love Story. You can find it on Vimeo around the world, or domestically, you can find it on Amazon. It's worth a watch. And so I want to thank everybody that made this year so much fun. And I hope next year is better. I appreciate the ongoing support of the channel. I've especially appreciated how people have been very kind to Elizabeth, had very kind words for her. And, I dragged her kicking and screaming onto YouTube, but she has acquitted herself with aplomb. And I really like working on the show with her. I think she's funny and delightful. And so I like that. And I'm especially proud of all the work she's done at the Art Center. I mean, Elizabeth, she always wanted to go to art school and to get into a prestigious art college like Pasadena's Art Center School of Design, and getting scholarships and getting high marks. She's been on the Dean's list. She's going to get on the Dean's list again. She's got now two semesters, and she's earned her way onto the Dean's list both times. Very proud of her. So it's been a pretty good year, despite all the COVID nonsense. A lot of work has gone on. I've done a lot of talking on the internet. Thank you for not being sick of me just yet. And so hopefully we'll have a great year, and we'll do more good things. We got the 600th show is coming up. And by the way, next week, we're going to have a New Year's Eve Burnettwork, ROBERVATIONS, Whining About Movies Zoom party. I said it's going to start at 8 o'clock Pacific time. I might start at 7 o'clock Pacific time. The only thing is about that is I worry because I might drink too much, and I want to celebrate everyone's New Year's, at least in the United States, and all of that. I also want to thank Mr. Dieter Bastian, a man who I did not know at the beginning of this year. Now, not only have we met, but we're doing shows together, like I'm doing shows with Az, like I'm doing shows with the guys from Midnight's Edge. I mean, it's amazing. You meet people on the internet, interwebs, and you never know what's going to happen. I want to thank Kaz Graphics for becoming our cheesemonger, Julius Goodwin for becoming our sommelier. I guess Throg. I don't know what is it called if you provide somebody with toilet paper. what is that called? Whatever he is. I want to thank Candida and Claude for being the first couple of the Burnettwork. I want to thank Jacob Fudge and his comic book store, Comic Relief, which I hope is still going strong. I heard from him yesterday because wearing his shirt. I should save all this for the end of the year, but I want to thank all of you, all of this community. It's been great. Everybody that's BL Alley for writing very fun and making very funny videos, wantonly making fun of us to our faces. That takes courage and humor, and he has both. And I'm very excited about that. Maybe getting back to his videos. And I want to thank everybody that's made films. It's been a great year. It's going to be an even better year next year, 2021, and it's going to be fun here on the Burnettwork. And I promise we're all going to have a good time. Hey. Maybe I shouldn't make Bill Cosby characters, but I did love Fat Albert as a kid. There you go. So everybody, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your families. Enjoy your food. And of course, enjoy Wonder Woman 84. I know I am. Anyway, thanks very much. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I say, well, have a better Christmas day. Thanks a lot.